My sister pushed me through a glass door in rage. The impact put me in a coma. And when I finally opened my eyes, everything had changed forever. She's bleeding. Oh God, there's so much blood everywhere. What did you do, Brielle? What did you do? I didn't mean to. She made me so angry. She's always making me angry. Somebody call 911. Jocelyn isn't responding. My sister shoved me through a glass door in pure rage. The impact sent me into a coma that lasted 3 weeks. Hi, I'm Jocelyn. They say comas feel like sleeping, but that's a lie. I heard everything. Every whispered word, every choked sob, every pathetic excuse. For 21 days, I lay trapped inside my own body while my family revealed who they really were around what they believed was my unhearing shell. That's how I discovered my sister Brielle had been fantasizing about hurting me for months, and my parents had been feeding her rage the entire time. Growing up as Brielle's younger sister felt like sharing a house with a live grenade. She was 3 years older than me, supposedly more mature, definitely physically stronger. But where most big sisters guard their little siblings with their lives, Brielle saw me as a rival who needed to be crushed. Why does she even exist? I once overheard her ask our mother when she thought I was playing in the backyard. I was 12. She was 15. Everything was perfect before she showed up and ruined it all. Mom's response still echoes in my nightmares. Brielle, sweetheart, you're still our special girl. Jocelyn's just here. That single word summed up my entire existence in our family. Just here. Brielle was the golden child. Gorgeous, popular, star of the volleyball team at Lincoln High. I was the bookish one who loved sketching and photography, who earned straight A's without breaking a sweat, who teachers constantly praised for being wise beyond my years. That wisdom wasn't some natural gift. It was pure survival instinct. I learned fast to shrink myself down, to never overshadow Brielle, to apologize for taking up too much space in her orbit. My best friend Tyler was the only person who saw past my act. We'd been neighbors since first grade, and he'd witnessed enough of Brielle's so-called accidents to recognize the truth hiding underneath. That bruise covering your shoulder isn't from tripping over your backpack, is it? He confronted me one afternoon when we were both 14. Brielle was just horsing around. She doesn't realize how strong she gets sometimes. Joss, she's captain of the volleyball team and hits the gym 5 days a week. She knows exactly how strong she is. He was absolutely right. But what options did I have? Every single time I tried telling my parents what was happening, they had their arsenal of excuses ready. Sisters fight sometimes. You're being too sensitive. Brielle's dealing with enormous pressure right now. The pressure excuse was their favorite weapon. Brielle was always drowning in pressure. From academics, from athletics, from her own impossible standards. And somehow, I became her designated punching bag whenever she needed release. Everything exploded when I turned 16. I'd been accepted into the Regional Academy's elite visual arts program for graphic design and digital media. The acceptance packet arrived on a Saturday morning, and I made the fatal mistake of showing genuine excitement about it. "That's fantastic, Jocelyn," Dad said, giving me a distracted side hug before returning to his coffee and the newspaper spread across the kitchen table. Brielle walked into the kitchen right as Mom was offering me a lukewarm congratulations that sounded more like an apology. "What's happening?" Brielle demanded. "Jocelyn got accepted to that design program," Mom said, already sounding guilty for even mentioning it. Brielle's expression turned dark as storm clouds. "The one at the Riverside Arts Academy? But that's where I have volleyball practice 3 times a week. They're in completely different buildings, Brie. We probably won't even cross paths." "Perfect. So now you'll invade my territory. Showing off like you always do." "I'm not showing off. I worked incredibly hard for this opportunity. The slap came so fast I barely registered the movement. My cheek exploded with burning pain as I stared at her in complete shock. "Brielle," Mom said weakly, "we don't hit in this house." "She provoked me," Brielle stated calmly, like she was discussing the weather. acting all superior about her stupid art program. Dad didn't even glance up from the sports section. Jocelyn, maybe dial down the celebration a bit. You know your sister's stressed about her college applications coming up. I pressed my hand against my stinging face, fighting back tears. She just hit me, and you're telling me to calm down? Don't be so dramatic. Mom sighed heavily. It was barely a tap. Sisters fight. Tyler was absolutely furious when he noticed my face that afternoon. You need to document every single incident. Take photographs. What's the point? They don't care. Because eventually she's going to cross a line you can't come back from and you'll need evidence. He helped me start a detailed journal, photographing every bruise, every injury, every close call. I kept everything hidden at his house since Brielle regularly searched through my bedroom. The situation deteriorated when Brielle didn't get accepted to her dream university. She'd been counting on a full volleyball scholarship to Stanford, but they gave it to someone from California instead. "This is karma," she hissed at me that night, cornering me in the hallway outside our bedrooms. "All your achievements, all your showing off, you jinxed my entire future." "Brie, that doesn't even make logical sense." She grabbed my wrist and twisted viciously until I cried out. "Everything terrible in my life happens because you exist. Mom and Dad baby you constantly. Teachers worship you. Everyone thinks you're so incredibly special. Well, you're not. You're a leech." She released me with a violent shove, and I stumbled backward, cradling my wrist protectively. It wasn't fractured, but the pain lasted for days. I couldn't hold my sketching pencils properly for a week, falling behind in my design assignments. My art teacher, Miss Harrison, noticed immediately. "Jocelyn, what happened to your wrist?" I fell down some stairs. She studied me with knowing eyes. "You understand I'm legally required to report suspicious injuries." "Please don't. It'll only make my home situation worse." Her eyes reflected sadness and understanding. "My classroom is always a safe space if you need someone to talk to." The spring art exhibition was supposed to be my shining moment. I'd created an entire digital portfolio for the school's gallery showcase, and they were featuring my work as the centerpiece. My parents had actually promised to attend, a rare gesture of support. The morning of the exhibition, Brielle was in a dangerous mood. She'd just received another rejection letter from a backup school. The rejection meant she'd be attending Hillside Community College, which she considered a fate worse than death itself. "Must be nice," she said, watching me press my exhibition dress. "Getting everything handed to you while I get nothing but rejection." "Brie, I'm genuinely sorry about the college situation." "No, you're not. You're probably thrilled. Poor Brielle finally fails at something while perfect Jocelyn gets another award ceremony." "That's not true at all. I want you to succeed." "Liar." She moved closer, her face flushed with rage. "You've been sabotaging me our entire lives. Being born was your first act of sabotage." "I can't help being born." "Well, maybe you should have tried harder not to be." I turned away, refusing to engage any further. The exhibition started in 6 hours, and I needed to focus my energy there. But Brielle wasn't finished with me. "Don't you dare walk away from me," she snarled, grabbing my shoulder and spinning me around forcefully. The momentum made me stumble backward. We were standing in the upstairs hallway between our bedrooms, right next to the decorative glass door that led into Mom's home office space. It was frosted glass, thick and supposedly reinforced, with an expensive geometric pattern Mom had special ordered from some boutique in Seattle. "Brie, please, not today. Just let me have this one day." "Let you have a day? Like you've let me have anything? The Arts Academy was supposed to be my space, but you wormed your way in with your precious design work. College was supposed to be mine, but you had to be so flawless that everyone constantly compares me to you. That's not even remotely true." "Shut up." Her hands shot out, shoving me with terrifying force. I flew backward, my arms flailing desperately trying to find balance, but there was nowhere to go except straight into that glass door. I remember thinking absurdly that Mom was going to be furious about her expensive custom door. Then my head and shoulders slammed into the glass with devastating impact. The supposedly reinforced door exploded into 1,000 pieces. Later, investigators discovered it had been installed completely wrong, with regular plate glass instead of the required safety glass. Instead of crumbling into harmless pebbles, it shattered into massive razor-sharp shards. I felt the sickening impact, the glass surrendering beneath me, the jagged edges slicing deep into my skull and throat. Then I was falling backward into Mom's office, deadly glass raining down around me like crystal snow. "She's bleeding. Oh God, there's so much blood everywhere. What did you do, Brielle? What did you do?" I didn't mean to. She made me so angry. She's always making me angry. "Somebody call 911. Jocelyn isn't responding." Those were the final words I heard clearly before the darkness swallowed me whole. But the darkness wasn't absolute. I existed in a terrifying space between life and death, aware but completely unable to respond, hearing but unable to speak. The doctors called it a medically induced coma initially, necessary to reduce the dangerous swelling pressing against my brain. But when they attempted to bring me back to consciousness, I didn't wake up. The head trauma had been catastrophic, skull fractures in 3 places, brain bleeding, severe damage to the regions controlling consciousness and motor function. "She's incredibly lucky to be alive," Dr. Robertson told my parents. I heard every word floating in my strange half-existence. "The glass severed a major artery in her neck. If your neighbor hadn't been a paramedic and known exactly how to apply pressure, she would have bled out before the ambulance arrived." Tyler's father, Mr. Jameson. He'd heard the tremendous crash and Brielle's hysterical screaming. He'd saved my life while my parents stood frozen in shock, and my sister kept repeating it was an accident. But as I lay there trapped inside my broken body, I heard the real truth slowly emerge. Brielle cracked first, just 3 days into my coma. My parents were having a hushed argument in my hospital room about mounting legal fees. Apparently, the district attorney was considering charging Brielle with aggravated assault. "Why should I be punished?" Brielle suddenly exploded. "You always said she was the problem. You always agreed when I complained she made everything harder for me." "We didn't mean for you to actually hurt her," Mom whispered desperately. "But you never stopped me either. Every single time I pushed her, hit her, tormented her, you made excuses for my behavior. You taught me it was acceptable because she was too sensitive or dramatic or asking for it." "Brielle, lower your voice right now." "Why? She can't hear anything we're saying. She's probably brain dead anyway. At least now she can't steal any more attention from me." The silence that followed felt suffocating. Even trapped in my coma, I could feel the terrible weight of it pressing down. "She might die," Dad finally said. "Your sister might actually die, and that's your only response?" "She's not my sister. She's a mistake you made that destroyed my life." More crushing silence. Then Mom, so quietly I almost missed it. "Maybe we should have gotten you therapy like your sister-in-law suggested years ago." "Therapy for what? For being rightfully angry that you had another child when I was already perfect? You didn't have Jocelyn to hurt me intentionally, but you let me believe you did. Every time you comforted me by saying Jocelyn was just here, or that I was still your special girl, you fed my resentment. You created this monster." She was right. They had created this nightmare, and now I was paying the ultimate price for their failures. Tyler visited every single day without fail. He'd sit beside my hospital bed and talk about school, about the exhibition I'd missed, about how my portfolio had received a standing ovation even without me there to witness it. He also kept me updated about the criminal investigation developing around my case. "They found your journal hidden at my house," he said one afternoon. "My mom gave everything to the police immediately. All those photographs, all those documented incidents you recorded. Brielle's lawyer is trying to claim it's fabricated, but too many witnesses have come forward now. Teachers who noticed suspicious bruises, neighbors who heard violent fights through the walls, friends who watched her hurt you in public and said nothing. He squeezed my unresponsive hand gently. "She's going down hard, Joss. And your parents? They're being investigated too, for criminal neglect, for failure to protect a minor in their care." I desperately wanted to squeeze back, to tell him I heard every word, but my body refused to cooperate with my mind. Dr. Reynolds, the neurologist overseeing my care, was brutally honest with my parents about my prognosis. Every day she remains in this coma state, the probability of full recovery diminishes significantly. You need to prepare yourselves mentally for the possibility that Jocelyn may never regain consciousness. "What exactly does that mean?" Mom asked, her voice breaking. Brain injuries are notoriously unpredictable. She could experience severe memory loss, dramatic personality changes, permanent physical disabilities, or she could wake up tomorrow completely normal. We simply don't know. Brielle was formally charged with aggravated assault and attempted murder. The incorrectly installed door actually worked against her defense. It demonstrated gross negligence on my parents' part for not ensuring basic home safety, and it significantly upgraded the criminal charges because my injuries were exponentially worse than a properly installed safety door would have caused. I heard my Aunt Patricia arguing intensely with my parents about the entire situation. "How could you allow this to continue for so many years? Everyone knew Brielle was violent toward Jocelyn. Everyone in this family knew." "She's our daughter," Dad protested weakly. "You thought wrong, and now one daughter is lying in a coma fighting for her life, and the other is facing decades in prison." The trial proceeded while I remained unconscious, trapped between worlds. Tyler faithfully kept me informed, sitting beside my bed reading from his detailed notes. Brielle tried to cry on the witness stand, but the prosecutor destroyed that performance immediately. "They had your journal, the photographs, testimony from 15 different teachers and neighbors. Even some of her closest friends testified that she'd talked openly about wanting to hurt you permanently." My hand twitched involuntarily. It was the first real movement I'd made in weeks. "The jury found her guilty on every single count. She's looking at 18 years minimum, Joss. 18 years. Another twitch. Tyler gasped and frantically called for the nurses. Waking from a coma isn't anything like the movies portray. It's agonizingly slow, deeply confusing, and incredibly painful. First came brief flashes of awareness, then gradually the ability to squeeze fingers on command. Opening my eyes required 3 more excruciating days. Speaking required a full week after that. My first word was Tyler's name. He absolutely broke down sobbing. This boy who'd been my protector, my secret keeper, my truest friend. He cried like his heart was breaking when I croaked out his name. "I'm here," he said through his tears. "I've been right here the entire time." My parents were a completely different story. They hovered in the doorway like uncertain strangers, unsure whether they were even welcome in my hospital room. "Jocelyn?" Mom started tentatively. "We're so incredibly sorry. We failed you completely. We understand that now." I turned my head away from them. The movement sent lightning bolts of pain through my skull, but it hurt less than looking at their faces. Recovery was absolutely brutal. I had to relearn basic motor skills from scratch, deal with massive gaps in my memory, and manage severe headaches that felt like my skull was splitting open all over again. But the physical therapy was significantly easier than processing the emotional devastation. A social worker named Angela was assigned to oversee my case. "Your parents want to maintain custody, but given the circumstances, the family court is willing to consider alternative arrangements. You're 17 now, nearly a legal adult. Your Aunt Patricia has formally offered to take you into her home." Aunt Patricia, who'd tried desperately to intervene years ago, who'd begged my parents to get Brielle professional help and been told to mind her own business. "Yes," I said without hesitation. "I want to live with her." My parents protested vigorously, but they had absolutely no ground to stand on. They'd been found guilty of child endangerment and criminal neglect. They were fortunate to avoid prison time themselves. The day I was finally discharged from the hospital, Brielle's sentencing hearing took place. 15 years in prison with possibility of parole after 10. She was 21 years old, which meant she'd be in her mid-30s when she got out, if she got out. Her volleyball career, her college dreams, her entire future, all of it gone. "Do you want to submit a victim impact statement?" the prosecutor asked me. I considered it seriously. Part of me desperately wanted to face her, to force her to see what she'd done to me. But Tyler helped me realize something crucial. "She already knows," he said. "She's known all along. That's exactly why she hated you so much, because you showed her who she really was. Violent, jealous, enabled by parents who should have stopped her years ago. Your success highlighted all her failures in sharp relief." So I didn't attend the sentencing. I let my journal speak for me, all those documented years of systematic abuse. The judge read extensive excerpts during sentencing, and apparently Brielle finally broke down completely. Not from genuine remorse, according to Tyler, but from the crushing realization that everyone could now see exactly what kind of person she truly was. Living with Aunt Patricia felt like breathing freely for the first time in my life. No walking on eggshells constantly, no fear of violence erupting, no parents making excuses for my abuser. Just safety, genuine support, and space to heal properly. "I should have fought harder for you," she said one evening over dinner. "When you were younger, I should have called Child Protective Services myself instead of just arguing with your parents. You couldn't have known it would escalate to attempted murder. Couldn't I? Violence always escalates, Jocelyn. Always. That's what people don't understand until it's too late." She helped me continue my education, though my traumatic brain injury made everything significantly more challenging. I couldn't design graphics the way I used to. The part of my brain that understood complex spatial relationships had been permanently damaged. But I discovered a new path forward: art therapy for trauma survivors. "You understand trauma on a cellular level," my academic advisor told me. "You understand how creativity can heal because you've lived it. That's an invaluable gift you can share with others." I graduated high school a year late, but with academic honors. My parents came to the ceremony, sitting in the very back row, still desperately hoping for some kind of reconciliation. "We've been attending therapy," Dad said afterward, "trying to understand how we failed you so completely." "That's good," I said neutrally. "Keep going." "Could we maybe meet for coffee sometime? Start rebuilding our relationship?" "No. You chose Brielle over my safety for 17 years. You don't get to choose me now that she's locked away." Mom started crying. "We love you, Jocelyn. We've always loved you. You loved the idea of me, the quiet daughter who didn't complain while being systematically abused. But you didn't love me enough to actually protect me. That's not love. That's convenience." I walked away with Tyler and Aunt Patricia flanking me on both sides. My real family. College opened up an entirely new world. Nobody knew my story unless I chose to share it. I made genuine friends, dated casually, discovered who I was outside of being Brielle's victim. The headaches still came regularly, and I'd probably manage them for the rest of my life. But I was alive. More importantly, I was thriving. My senior year of college, I received an unexpected letter forwarded through my lawyer. It was from Brielle. I almost threw it away unopened, but curiosity won. It was brief. "I still blame you. I'll always blame you. You stole my life." Even from prison, she couldn't take responsibility for her actions. I kept the letter as a reminder, not of her hatred, but of how far I'd traveled. She was still trapped in her rage and resentment, while I was finally free. But I started working at a rehabilitation center for teenagers with traumatic brain injuries. Many were victims of violence, just like me. I helped them find their voices again through art therapy, showed them that survival and healing were possible. One girl, Amber, reminded me powerfully of myself. 15 years old, quiet, still recovering from being pushed down a concrete staircase by her mother's boyfriend. She couldn't speak yet due to her injuries, but she could paint. Art remembers even when we can't, I told her gently. It lives in parts of our brain that violence can't always reach. The day she completed her first full painting since the attack, we both cried together. Her mother's boyfriend was in prison, just like Brielle. Her mother had chosen the man over her daughter, just like my parents chose my sister over me. But here she was, creating something beautiful despite everything. So here's my question for you. When someone tries to destroy you but ends up destroying themselves instead, do you owe them forgiveness to find your own peace? Or is your peace found in building a life so full and meaningful that their absence isn't even noticed? I built that life. And every day I wake up, I choose myself, the choice my parents never made.